What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Simon of Baest. Thank you so much for your time today. It's great to have you here.
Cheers, everybody out there. How are you doing?
Hanging in there, all things considered. You're out in Denmark right now?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep, I'm at home. I'm enjoying a nice beverage, some rum, and enjoying the typical Scandinavian weather, which is minus degrees and all dark all the time.
we just had a nasty blizzard here in New York, so it was just nothing but black metal the whole time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like black shirt, man.
It's awesome. It's awesome. But with the new album Necro Sapiens coming out very soon, do you just want to talk about like how the making of this album was in terms of like the songwriting and the recording and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. Well, the ideas for this album, the Necro Sapiens, already started doing the progress of the second album, Venom. The ideas started bumbling, and we wanted to derive, like, kind of go away from the medieval seven deadly sins, the religious like themes and subjects, which we focused on the two first albums. So we wanted to do something completely different, and what is completely different from that is like outer space. And we started the progress. Like we wanted to push out the album at like March, and we knew even before the virus came that we wanted to go into the studio at like maybe the fall of 2020. And Necro Sapiens is a concept album, which is inspired by the George Orwell novel 1984.
I was just reading that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And we created this whole universe, which is like this post-apocalyptic, dystopic, sci-fi kind of ish universe, which is like we have this Genesis, which is like the birth of this whole or the birth of this whole universe, and we have the Necro Sapiens, which is a slave race, which is also kind of the protagonist through this whole story. We got the Tsar, which is this totalitarian dictator ruler of this this universe, and we have an abattoir, which is a derivement for the it's the what is it called? It's the parliament where human freedom is slaughtered for its being, and we have the Towers of Suffocation, which is a prison for those who don't live under the circumstances of this totalitarian world and regime. How do you say it? And then if people don't seem to follow the rules, they'll might get a visit from this mercenary with a meat hook massacre. So it's like how do you say it? It's a presentation. The whole album is like a presentation, each song for this universe and its characters, all in all, kind of.
So it's almost like, being that this is a concept album, it is almost kind of like you need to start off with The Forge and end with Sea of Vomit, right? Like that's the way to approach this. This album isn't like a shuffle friendly.
That's the way to approach it, yeah, pretty much. But and you have to listen to the songs like sequentially through most of the album as well. And of course, there's these lyrics are within the frames, and the concept are within some kind of lyrical frame, and we think it's fucking cool because sci-fi. What's not fucking cool about that?
Exactly. And having like a different concept, being that you approach like the medieval sort of aspect of music before, obviously a concept influences the lyrics, but do you feel that maybe it influenced the music itself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. During the times that we recreated the music, we had a lot of time in terms of lockdown. We had a lot of time to focus on songwriting as well. And the songs are pretty much a derivement of that time, and spending a lot of time of on each song trying to pull out this. For example, the song Sa, which is like a kind of long atmospheric tune. And I remember Sven, the guitarist, told me that he thought that that one of the licks, or one of the riffs, sounded like a laser beam or something like that. So absolutely, it's also like the music also tries to communicate with the concept, and is also a product of the thoughts that we had about it.
Mm-hmm. Could this concept be open to interpretation as well? Like Obscura, for example, like they had 4 albums of space, time, and the universe, and like how they kind of left it open to interpretation. It was more just a subject matter that they were addressing. But is the goal for Baest to almost kind of like maybe engage the listener in the story just as much as the music?
Yeah, it's just as much this just for the yeah, it's most of all the fictional universe, and like a way to pull the listener into a universe, and to make them more how do you say, like eager to experience what is more of this. Absolutely. So yeah, it's how to make the listener more interested in it.
Yeah, well, it's really fascinating because I've always loved artists who, like, I guess, you could say that there's just as much, there's songwriting, there's, studio time, there's practicing, but would you also say that there's, like, research involved as well? Like, obviously this is inspired by George Orwell's 1984, so, like, is there maybe, like, would you say that research or looking for inspiration is part of the songwriting process as well?
I think mostly it's looking for inspiration, and of course there are much more. There are other inspirations as well. Mad Max, the Mad Max universe, for example, and such thing as Magic Card, and the Warhammer 40,000 as well. And I think it's our own interpretation. I wouldn't say it's directly derived from the story. But it's mostly ideas and like own interpretation of how I read the novels, and also like kind of experience pictures in my head of what kind of universe this is. So I wouldn't say it's a direct interpretation of the novel, but it definitely helped me to create pictures in my head of how I would like to write the lyrics and like it to sound. And it's kind of interesting how your own interpretation, because like I'm not like a word guy. I'm much more like a picture guy. I depict like landscapes and buildings and caricatures and all that stuff. And I think that's an interesting way of working with text and lyrics as well.
Yeah.
So I also think that creates a whole nother universe than it was actually. Than the story was actually written, maybe.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time where maybe personal experiences, though, or maybe some elements of you or the other members' past could also influence the music? Or would you say that this band is more or less kind of like a way of escaping your personal lives in a way?
That's an interesting question, dude. I don't think. I kind of think it's like, because it is fictional, and fictional, like universes as comics and stuff like that. It's kind of like an escape into another world from the real life as well. And it's also it's a good way of creating frames and trying to, you know, make a red line through a story and have something to write about. I wouldn't say there are any personal stories. Maybe I would more put our personal, how do you say, personalities into the music rather than put it into the lyrics, because, you know, aggressions and rage is always something that you can relate to. But I think it's hard to create a media to actually tunnel that through, actually. So I would more say that it's the personal thing in it is just the music itself.
Yeah, well, Henry Matisse, the painter, said that every painting or every piece of art is a self-portrait. So it is coming from your own heart and your own mind and your own hand. So I think in the end, this is just you translating language into another medium, which is music.
Absolutely, and not only language but also emotions, you know. Absolutely, and I always think, but of course each artist speaks their own language. So, and somehow maybe our music also resembles of other artists as well. But for us, it's of course a very personal work, and for us, it's our artistic language as well.
Yeah. I may be asking this question way far in advance right now, but being that you explored different concepts and explored different territory with this album, do you think that more doors opened up for the future of songwriting?
I don't want to push that hat down people's people's heads, because people seem to find their own way of creating art and creating lyrics. If it's an inspiration to other people to do new things with their music and their art, that is just fantastic. But I think what people should keep doing to do something new is that they have to look within themselves and try to do what they think is the right way and what they feel comfortable in trying to create.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy to hear you reference George Orwell. Like that just made this one of my favorite interviews this year, because he said my favorite quote of all time, which is, "We always demand the truth, never understanding the price we agreed to pay." And I feel like we live in a time where people are longing for the truth now. I feel like this album is almost representative, like, of the times that we're living in. Even if it is referencing a book from the past, I feel like you're able to kind of bring this old book and make it more relevant again and use a modern day medium to do so.
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. But, you know, George Orwell's reason with this book was also it's a dystopia. It's trying to imagine yourself or the society, the population into a dystopic, into a future within a system in terms of how the things were at that time. And that thing, to turn it upside down, also is an interesting thing. Also looking back on what time he wrote the novel in 1948, and that was after the Second World War. That was with all the fear of communism and the Soviet regime and whatever societal systems and things that was going on at that time, we are also trying to we actually working with also creating a book for the whole album as well. We did a book with the last album with the Dante's Inferno and did a short story, a small book with it as well. And I think the plans are to do something alike, but with more graphic material and more like interesting points of views, not with like interpretation of the George Orwell novel, but more an invitation into the Baest universe and the Necro Sapiens universe, first of all.
Well, I love how you also mentioned presentation behind the album. James Hetfield has been quoted saying that presentation is as much part of the art. So the way that Baest releases an album is like it's almost a ritual. I feel like it. Like you need some people just want to listen to the album laid back and totally fine, and some people just want simplicity to be part of their art. But I feel like you have a visual experience, you have a literal experience, you have a poetic experience. I feel like this is an album that could result in multiple experiences for a listener.
Yeah, exactly. And it's what I said before as well. It's creating some kind of frames within how you want to interpret and how you want to view this artistic work as well. And I hope, and that's also the meaning by this, that because each listener has their own interpretation of how this universe looks like, and that would be fantastic because it creates individual views on and interpretations and experiences of the album, and I really hope to hear people talk about that, because I think that's an interesting point of view of how are people interpreting this. I've had my interpretation, but how about you? How do you listen to this?
Yeah. Can somebody else's experiences or somebody else's interpretations maybe influence on how you look at the album? Do you feel like that can almost add more context to it?
Absolutely. I very much think that other people can influence me and make me see my own work in another way. I think it's important for a band not just to communicate one way, but also communicate with the listener in some way. And even we are talking now and speaking now, for instance. I've never thought about that, but and I'm just throwing thoughts into it and making new points of view in that. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, art comes out of art, and I think it's always great when fellow artists can inspire each other, even if it's nothing like what they do. Like, you know, I'm a painter, you're a metal musician, you know, different worlds, but
interesting, man.
But you know, art always comes from experience. So
it does.
Yeah, if you make an album based on this interview, just please give me credit.
Absolutely, I would like to give you credit. I have very much. What kind of art do you make?
Like black metal art, like inspired by black metal and like.
Cool. Like logos and such.
No, things? like overall, like I mean, overall, like, you know, Baphomet portraits and you know, like, you know, certain portraits, taking things that are deemed holy and making them as evil as possible.
Cool, man. That sounds fucking rad.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And I really enjoyed the artwork on this album too. Who did the album artwork?
Mitchell Nolte.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, we actually had another idea for the cover art, but we touched it out. At some point, there was some disagreement, but then Century Media showed us, you know, our record label showed us a variety of different artists, and Mitchell Nolte had this blueprint of this caricature. And then we sent a text to him and describing the whole universe and what the ideas with the albums and the lyrical themes and stuff like that. And then he began working on details and sent us ideas. And it's a caricature of the Tsar, which is also a track on the album as well. I remember the third track, if I'm right.
Yeah.
And the Tsar is this grand... totalitarian dictator ruler of this horrible, I might say fascist capitalist regime.
Well, the czars in Russia were some very, very fucking brutal people.
They really were some fucking brutal people, and I also think that it has, you know, it's derived from Caesar. You know, the great Roman dictator, emperor as well, and
Emperor Nero.
From Tsar, it takes all the the regimes that has affected all kinds of societies in a kind of way, and we're trying to take them and put it into maybe a more modern and dystopic society as well.
Yeah.
And besides, Tsar is a fucking cool name.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and mentioning that the Roman emperors, I mean, the famous story where Rome is burning and Nero is just playing a fiddle. So
yeah, that's a fucking that's a harsh view, trying to depict like this emperor who actually is supposed to watch over your town, but actually just burning it down from the ground and enjoyed it somehow. And I also see when you dig into these like former regimes, the Soviet regimes, the Tsar, all those things that they have done towards horrible things they have done towards humankind. The whole Nazi regime. I have been listening to a podcast about the last freedom fighter, Danish freedom fighter during the Second World War, and he was abducted by the Gestapo and was tortured in some people, and he described his not his executioner but his torturer as this cold and kind of sadistic figure which was using his power to hurt people. Like that's a fucking that's a wild thing to think. That's a wild point of view to that's a wild way to see human people.
Yeah,
human beings, man.
My grandfather was a Holocaust survivor, and he was actually one of his occupations was translating for Dr. Mengele.
Yeah.
So and he told me that was the evil in its purest form when he met Dr. Mengele, but he looked like a movie star. Like it's amazing on how evil has many different faces, and like it makes you really not trust anybody.
That's also the point with the Tsar. If you look at his stick, it contains of different faces, and the idea with the Tsar is also kind of an idea we had from 1984, the Big Brother feature, which is not like a physical form, but actually is this massive face representing this system. But nobody knows if he's actually a person or if he. So they can actually put any fucking face on him, and that's the idea about the Tsar. He can take all kinds of faces, take on all kinds of faces, and please all kinds of classes and people in this society.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a haunting article, look up the article of like 30 of the most evil people when they were children, like childhood pictures of them. It's insane. Like, it goes to show that we all are innocent at one point, but we grow up to be monsters.
At some point, yeah. In someone's view.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's all rooted in the concept of reality, the imperfect concept of reality, where it's just reality is whatever has been adapted to the desires of man as a whole.
All the things we see, it's just the top of the iceberg, and the bottom is more dark than you ever know, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you don't know how big it is either.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed this discussion. Is there just anything else with Baest that you'd like to promote in terms of with the release, like a live stream performance or new merch or anything like that?
It's coming out 5th of March, I believe. We are still doing a tour with Phil Anselmo the late summer. Hopefully we'll do, and if it's going to be possible, come see it if you like. Hopefully we'll be to the States at some point. It's the dream, but right now we just have to adapt to the circumstances and wait wait till it opens up, and hopefully people will be filled with fucking energy to come out and see live shows.
Yeah.
So I want people to be optimistic.
Yeah. I know it's not metal to be optimistic, but it's permitted this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Simon. Everybody, we are here with Simon of Baest. Be sure to check out their brand new album, Necro Sapiens, coming out this spring. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.